Good morning. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Good morning, everybody. How y'all doing today? Who's out there already? Tyre, good morning to you, sir. Good morning. Oh, it is Monday, the 30th. Man, October's almost gone already. Tomorrow night's Halloween, so we'll see how it all goes with that. Oh, excuse me. My puppy is laying on the couch here next to me. I've got needles stuck in my gut. This is Infusion Monday, of course. I'm talking to my doctor, seeing rather than getting it every other week, if I could just make it every Monday. That way I don't have to worry about trying to fit in 2 days in one week and remembering which week it is and isn't. I've got to have it set up pretty straight. Yep, All Hallows Eve tomorrow night. Samhain. Uh, yeah, I've gotten a lot of support. Well, not a lot of support, some support there on TikTok and a couple other social media areas where um, you get the same old people standing there. If you don't want to be racist, if you don't want to lose your job, if you don't want to be this or that, then make certain you don't put on blackface or culturally appropriate anybody else's uh, anything from anyone else for your Halloween. And my response is to it, okay, if you really are that serious about not wanting to, culturally appropriate something, then unless you are Irish, do not celebrate Halloween. Don't do it. If you're going to sit there and tell me that I can't dress up as this or that, I can't use this makeup or that makeup because it's cultural appropriation, then it's cultural appropriation if you're going to go out and do anything for Halloween. Unless you're Irish. And no, I'm not talking about the smoked Irish that everybody seems to be on St. Patrick's Day. I don't know, hell, think that term smoked Irish may not even be uh, it might even be considered to be a racist term now. Smoked Irishman. Let's see what Google has to say about it. Okay, smoked Irishman. Let me share this. This is another one of those phrases I was brought up saying. Exactly, Tyre, exactly. So, smoked Irishman, did that share out? Yes, it did. Okay. From the joint low status of blacks and the Irish in Britain and the United States during the 19th century. Smoked Irish. Oh, they. That's all they got to say about it. Wikipedia, you really disappoint me. Let's see here, because right here on the first it says the colored. No one says black. Even few even say Negro. Represent change in instability. Kids who cause trouble in school, who get what is definite. Okay, there we go. Let's see here. Smoked Irish, derogatory ethnic slur, dated cinnamon of blacks, black people. Smoked Irish, this is the name given to blacks in England and in America. It came from the theory that the two underclass races would eventually merge together and form one race. All right. In 19th century English term for a black person intended to insult both black people and Irish. Okay, that's interesting because that's a little bit different than what I thought it was when I come up with, when I was being raised, what it meant. But that's okay. I'm not gonna. I don't know too many people. If somebody files a complaint on me and I get a strike for it, oh well. Oh well. That is what it is. Tired, you have a good weekend. I hope you did because mine was interesting, uh, to say the least. It's really getting to the point you can't even trust. I use a news aggregator. Good morning is racist now. Oh Lord, have mercy. You know, I use like most people. I use a news aggregator to see what's going on and that way I can pick and choose different articles to read. Uh, I don't lock myself into CNN, Fox, MSNBC, or any of them. And one of the articles that popped up, and I can't tell if this article is if it's about Stanford and they're coming up with banned words and terminology. And I thought it sounded familiar. And I got reading the article, and then I remember last year, or earlier this year rather, back in January, February timeframe, I covered about some banned terms and what new terminology people wanted to use instead. But this article popped up this morning. Let me share it here. Or when I say this morning, like I said, I've been up since 2 o'clock. Come on, here we go. And you see it says October 29th. All right. Stanford launches initiative to eliminate and replace offensive words. But when I tried to do a little more research on it, it looks like some of this is from last January. But it wouldn't surprise me to find out that this is still going on right now. Hey, good morning, Ramen. But it wouldn't surprise me to find out this is still going on. Rolled out in 2022, the guide was created to eliminate, and this is where I'm thinking I already covered this once, but why is this making the news again other than Stanford is making another stab at it? But it's always nice to see, what these liberal organizations, liberal schools, and such, because are trying to do to their students, because they know in the long term it affects the country. I mean, a lot of this stuff. I mean, we all pretty much understand. We get it. What we used to think is once these kids got out of college and got out in the real world, a lot of the crap that they were taught in college would disappear. They'd understand that that's not the way it is. They'd learn the truth. Well, it turns out that we were wrong. And we should have been paying a hell of a lot more attention and putting a lot more pressure on these schools 10, 15 years ago, 5 years ago than what we did. Because look at all the radical changes that's going on. You know, um, I was. Oh, by the way, I do have to thank Monkey and Mr. Jack for giving me in this show a shout out the other night. But one correction there, Monkey. All right, I don't go by Toss. All right, Toss is the term I've got out there. But if anybody, uh, Toss is there, but Shroom is still the name. Okay, uh, it's just when I tried putting it in some places, it just got so bollocksed up because the psychedelic people had taken it over. That just going down as the original Shroom, because I still say yes. I got the nickname back in 1982 or 83, and damn it, I'm sticking to it. I'm keeping it. I'm keeping that I am the original Shroom. Oh, I'd never say anything racist towards ramen. Sexist maybe, but not racist. Okay. So the guide categorized harmful words into 10 sections based on the cases where such words are most likely used. Categories include ableist, ageism, colonialism, culturally appropriative, gender based, imprecise language, institutionalized racism. There is, if you can find me one law, one rule that benefits white people, white men, or straight white men over anybody else, then I'll agree there's institutional racism. The way they want it to mean. The only way I will accept and I can prove institutional racism is institutional racism against whites and institutional um, uh, it's not necessarily sexism and such is straight white. If you're a straight white Christian man, you are totally screwed because every place is going to put you to the very bottom. Even the Writers Guild, people that just came on off a strike, even the people that just came off of strike have got diversity training sessions where they flat right admit straight white men are not welcome because we need more we need more diverse voices in the Writers Guild. Is it any wonder these TV shows and movies have gone to crap? Ty short for Tyrant. Tyrant Alexander. Okay. Aha, now it all makes sense. Now that all makes sense. You got your nickname back in 2005 and 6, okay? I got my nickname when I Shroom when I was in Germany. And I've told this story before, so it's no deep dark secret. And there's only maybe a half a dozen people in the world that can associate this story directly with me, my real place. So I'd gotten, I was in the Air Force, of course, and I had missed an appointment of some sort or another. And at the time, we had to go see our lieutenant if we missed an appointment down in the orderly room. Now, at the time, I did not work directly with our unit. I worked at a remote section with the pilots. And so I saw my direct supervisor maybe once a month. Maybe once a month. I did not see him very often. So I was never notified about this mandatory appointment that I missed. And I went down to the orderly room to see this lieutenant. And this lieutenant was a real SOB at the time. He had his nameplate on his desk, was contained or had a hatchet embedded into a set of stripes. And, we call him the Hatchet Man because, he loved nothing better than popping stripes off of people's arms. He loved getting people demoted. And I went in and he's chewing me out for missing this appointment. Don't you know how important these appointments are? Yada, yada, yada. You've got to, you're an NCO. You should be setting the example for the people that work for you. Yada, yada. I'm sorry, Lieutenant, but I did not know that appointment existed. I was never notified. What do you mean you were never notified? The appointment roster was sent out to your supervisor 2 weeks ago. You should, da 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 da. I know your supervisor. I know he posts these points. Sir, I don't see my supervisor that often. Maybe once a month if it's frequent. Who in the hell, what the hell are you? Are you some sort of goddamn mushroom kept in the dark? Da, 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 da. You expect me to believe that you didn't get notified about this? Yada, yada, yada. So I had to sign some paperwork for missing the appointment. And by the time I got out of the lieutenant's office, and his office was right next to the orderly room staff. By the time I got out of the LT's office, got on and it was about 2.5 miles from the orderly room to where we worked. And I got down there to report to my supervisor. Some people in the orderly room had already called the people back at the duty section. And a friend of mine was in charge of making dog tags for everybody. And by the time I got back, he had a new set of dog tags made up for me called with instead of my name, it said Shroom on there. And underneath it said kept in the dark and fed a bunch of bullshit. I wish I still had those name tags. The gentleman that made them for me was killed in an automobile accident by some stoners who were high on marijuana, and he was forced off of a edge of a cliff, and he died as a result of that accident. That's one of the reasons why I'm very much against recreational use of marijuana until they can come up with a definitive test for being under the influence of at the point where you can be, to equate the BAT or blood testing for alcohol. But that has been my nickname ever since. So I'm rather proud of that nickname. But anyway, let's get back to this. Article. Let's see here. Person first, violent, and additional considerations. So these are all the categories that Stanford wants to change words. Replacing words for moral appropriateness. The guide says people should use U.S. citizen instead of American when referring to U.S. citizens. Okay, I can live with that one. That one I can agree with. Okay, because the Americas includes uh, Canada, Mexico, Central America, and South America. All right, just as the article says here. So I can agree with that. Let's, even though it's most people automatically, when you say I'm an American and you're speaking English, they pretty much go with the U.S. citizen. That's sort of the default position, but I can understand why they would want to go with U.S. citizen. That does sort of make sense. That accent was back in the mid '80s. He was a good friend of mine. He had a great sense of humor, and I was very it really affected me when he died, when he was killed. So the guidelines recommends using four words to replace one inappropriate word. For instance, we should replace immigrant with person who has immigrated. No, I'm going to disagree with that. And prisoner with a person who was or is incarcerated. No, he was a prisoner. Was he a prisoner at a federal level, at a state level, at a local level, or was he a prisoner of an individual? He was still a prisoner. Under culturally appropriate category, university suggests using one's name instead of other references such as Chief or Pocahontas. Okay, now, you know, I can, considering, while calling somebody Chief isn't, it can be, but referring to somebody as Pocahontas, that's definitely, you're being derogatory. And yeah, that's not uh that's really not in plight. Now calling somebody chief, I mean you got chief of police, you got multiple chief ranks in the military, you have fire chiefs. I mean, chief you're a leader. So, but can somebody also be using it in a derogatory fashion? Yeah, you can. People can also be using it in a derogatory fashion. Well, Tyler, okay, like I said, I see what you're saying there. We're not statisticians. We are, okay, we're U.S. citizens. We are U.S. Americans. Um, that is sort of a problem with having the name of our country being four words or five words, the United States of America. Okay, or four United States of America. That is a problem. You know, where do you know Mexico, you're from Mexico, you're Mexican. You're from Honduras, you're Honduran. You're, from Canada, you're Canadian. France, French. You're English or Great Britain, or you're Irish, you're Russian. Most countries are single word named countries. Uh, there's not that many countries. Let's see, you got the United Arab Emirates, the UAE. I really can't think of any other multi worded named countries. Yeah, People's Republic of China, Chinese, right? We still we don't very rarely call it the PRC. We just say they're from China. Yeah. And you're understanding what I'm saying there about the word chief there, Ty. You're exactly right about that. Let's see. Elsewhere, the guidelines recommend replacing abort with end or cancel when referring to operations instead of associating it with abortion. Context is everything here, people. All right. Uh, you know, you can't just get end a word simply because it's part of another word that you don't like. Okay, and besides that, what is an abortion? But is the ending of a birth, is the ending of a life. So yeah, it is what it is. Let's see. I love this here. Other words such as Karen should be replaced with demanding or entitled white woman. I know some people, and it may have started off Karen being associated strictly with with white women, up, middle class, middle to upper class white women. But I've referred to black women who act the same way, act in that fashion as Karens. And I call men who act in that fashion Darrens. So, it's Karen, at least to me, has become, it's an attitude and actions based, not racial base. Hey, Retro, good morning to you. Yep, you're right, Tired. This article is written by a Karen. Again, though, I don't know if Stanford is trying to pull this back again because, like I said, I do remember I even had a graph with a bunch of these words that they wanted swapped out. Let's see here. I love they don't even spell it out here. Prostitute. I mean, come on, people. Prostitute should be replaced with a child who's been trafficked. All right. Uh, I can't. When I think of a prostitute, I do not think of a child. And if a child's involved with it, I would not call. I mean, a prostitute is a person who willingly sells their body for sexual favors or other usage for money. All right. And a child cannot be a prostitute. because a child does not have the mental wherewithal to make that decision to willfully sell their body for sex or other actions like that. So, um, you know, a trafficked child would be okay, but a child prostitute, that term should never exist. Okay. Now, prostitute should also be replaced by a person who engages in sex work. Come on, make it. A lot of this is just trying to make it pretty. You know, to take the stigma. It's like, they want us to call a certain group of people maps now instead of calling them pedos, or wood chipper fodder. Hey, Sean, good morning. You know, a hooker, again, I do not support anybody selling their body for sex. All right. I don't like the idea of somebody having to resort to selling their body for sex in order to make a living. However, that being said, while I do not approve, personally, I do not approve of that activity. I don't approve of it. Um, I I'm not going I'm not going to look. I have a difficult time saying I'm going to look down on a person, male or female, who does it. I don't approve of that. All right, but I'm not. I have a difficult time saying I got to judge somebody based on that. Okay, I know I'm not making myself. Uh, that's I've known a couple. It's like I've known some strippers. I knew one stripper who actually was just putting herself through college. Her and her sister put themselves through college stripping. And as soon as they got their degrees, they, as far as I know, they've been done. I haven't seen them on the local uh, strip clubs at all. And the reason why I know they aren't the local strip clubs is because they used to stay at the hotel I worked at, because they got paid lots of money at the strip club fairly close to where our hotel was. And they have not been back there for a very long time. And they, believe me, they made lots of money. So, anyway, let's get back. Guidelines also suggest using person first language to avoid judging someone based on one of their characters. Ableist. Under this category, university suggests replacing handicap parking. Oh my God, come on. Spell it out. It's handicap. What? With accessible parking. All parking is accessible parking. Handicap parking is handicap parking. It's for people with a handicap that needs either more room or they need to be closer proximity to the entrance or whatever. Okay. using anonymous review instead of blind review. According to the guideline, blind review intentionally negatively portrays disabled people, furthering. Okay, well, what about double blind studies? A blind review just means you don't know who's reviewing it, and that nobody knows anything about either. These people hurt my brain. The guideline also suggests using tone deaf with unenlightened and using a person with drug abuse disorder instead of addict. Oh God. Well, I'm tone deaf in the aspect that I can't carry a tune, and anybody that's heard me sing will tell you that. But unenlightened, these people hurt me. They really do. Gender based. When referring to the gender section, you should use pronouns instead of what are you saying? When referring to the gender section, you should use pronouns instead of preferred pronouns, which makes gender identity a choice. Oh, I thought, according to the left, we were supposed to use people's preferred pronouns. Or are you now saying that? Are you now saying that preferred pronouns is supposed to be so widely accepted that you're just dropping preferred? I think they got this back asswards. That I really okay. Stanford also warns against using non-inclusive words ending with man or woman. For example, congresswoman or freshman. Man hour should also be replaced with more inclusive terms such as person hour or effort hour to avoid perpetuating male-dominated language. Got news for you, Stanford. Okay. Uh, that there are most of the hard labor jobs are still male dominated because women don't want into them for the most part. Yes, you are going to find a few women out there doing manual labor. You are going to find a few, but they're damn few. Most women do not want to be out working in the sun. They don't want to be working the oil rigs. They don't want to be working in the fields. They don't want to be working in the sewers. They don't want to be, working the doing the septic tank repair work. You know, the jobs that dirty, nasty, and are usually priced out at man hours. All right, what's Sean posting here? Uh, the etymology of hooker. This is Stanford, there, retro, of course. And like I said, I think this is a continuation of a year-old article. Let's see here. People are also advised to avoid phrases such as killing two birds with one stone or pulling the trigger, since they are deemed to have violent connotations. Killing two birds with one stone should be replaced with accomplishing two things at once to avoid promoting violence against animals. Low-hanging fruits has also been banned due to the violent and racist connotations it may have. While the phrase often refers to things that can be won easily, it could mean lynching when used in African American communities. No, that was strange fruit, Stanford. Or what's this woman's name? Scroll up here and get this woman's name again. Catriona Maria. Okay, here we go. Don't use beat a dead horse in communication to avoid normalizing violence against animals. You're beating a dead horse with this article. These people really make my brain hurt. I don't understand it. Let's see. Gangbuster is racist. While the word invokes police action against gangs in a positive way, it may have racial undertones. Being as Gangbuster came out as, primarily against the Italian mafia. Let's see here. All right. Other words such as black mark and black sheep should be avoided in communication since it has a negative connotation to the color black. Oh my God. I was waiting for these. I knew this was going to happen. The initiative also suggests using legacy status to replace grandfathered due to links to the grandfather clause adopted to deny blacks voting rights in southern states. Mm, my poor brain. Where's some duct tape? White space should also be replaced with empty space to avoid signing value connotations based on color and act. Okay, what happened here? Uh, which makes such words subconsciously racist. While the new list of, okay, so this is a new list. While the new list of words that are impacted possible replacements make the initiative popular, adding American and immigrant and grandfather to the list sparked criticism that prompted the university to remove it from public view. All right, so this is just a rehash. This is a rehash of the article of a year-old issue. And look at what happens right up here at the very top. Tone deaf CEO celebratory. Tone Deaf CEO replaces staff with AI. Yeah, I mean, they're telling you not to use Tone Deaf, but meanwhile, they've got them right here in their article in their links. Well, oh yeah, Devil's Food Cake and Angel Food Cake. Yep. Oh, I'm sorry, Tyre. I just closed that article just before I saw your request. Okay. Let's see. I should be able to pull it back up here. Stanford replace language. Okay. All right, here is an article on it. It's not the one that I just used, but here's another article on it. Uh, just sent me one in the DMs there, Sean. Oh, retro. Did you send it to me in the DM there, retro? Oh, you just posted it. Okay, let me see here. Oh. Oh, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and share that. That's great. 2023 Halloween costume. Okay. He needs to be carrying around a vial of that's got a big T red T marked on it. That's good. I like that. Okay, where am I at now? Okay, here we go. Now, if we want to talk uh, about communities that are tone deaf or news articles that are tone deaf, and this one here again. It hit my news aggregator this morning, but I don't understand when it's about 3 months old. Why it's just hitting the news aggregate this morning? Okay. Um, but it is something worthwhile. A city in Michigan votes to permanently ban pride flags from display on public property during Pride Month. Okay, this article's from back in June. Uh, Hamtramck City Council members voted unanimously Tuesday to approve a controversial resolution which restricts the city from flying any religious, ethnic, racial, political, or sexual orientation group flags on public grounds. So the only thing they can fly is the American flag. All right. That's keeping the city playing neutral and, you know, Women's Month, Gay Pride Month, this month, that month. That makes sense. I mean, obviously it makes sense to me. It's something that I don't see a problem with. In fact, I wish more cities would adopt that. The issue here, though, is the gay pride people, the LGBTQ mafia, did not like it. And obviously, they didn't like it. And what they're blaming it on is Hamtramck. I guess that's how you pronounce that. Uh, their entire city council is all Muslim. And the gay pride, the gay people, the LGBT mafia, and liberals, they all, yes, 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 we slapped the Republicans and Donald Trump in the face and voted for an all Muslim city council. And then this turns around and happens, and the LGBT mafia got a little bit upset about it. Whoops. Dozens of community members spoke on the resolution during several hours allotted for the public comment. One individual opposed the resolution, say for Hamtramck to attempt to equate the LGBTQ pride flag with hate symbols when it's a symbol of progress and love is now an attack on our community. No, what the city is doing is saying we don't, you know, is doing is saying we're not going to get in the middle of playing these games. Because once we start showing if we show that we're going to fly this flag, then we got to fly somebody else's flag. We can't start picking and choosing winners here, winners and losers. Yeah, Sean, I heard about that this morning, and I had not had a chance to really look into that a whole lot. I heard about it about quarter after 8, and I was busy setting up my infusion, so I sort of lost track of what was going on with it. And speaking of infusion, all right, while we're discussing this, I gotta go set up a fresh vial, so I get to make it a little bit of noise. I really do need to start getting ramen or doing an open stream on Mondays so that when I'm setting up this thing up, I can mute myself and you guys don't have to hear this because I am actually away from the computer sitting at the kitchen table while doing this. I got 2 more bottles to go through, which is about an hour and a half. Uh, get this get this stuff sucked into the bottle, into the syringe. I really wish they would let me have two sets of syringes so that I could have one of them already set up, ready to go. But they only give me enough for one syringe per day. So, okay, there we go. Hook it back up. And it's pumping. Get this one, then one last bottle after this, and I'm done for the day. All right. And I actually started this a couple hours uh, before the stream. I wish I knew more about what was going on with the Black Israelites in this. Yeah, Sean, I'm going to look into that some more though. That this ought to be good. The Black Israelites, that's going to be fun. See what's going on with that. You know. But this is also going to be fun though, or see what's going to go on next election season. Will the gay pride LGBT community start coming out against the Muslim leadership? That could be fun. All right, now for some bad news, and this here, uh, if you live in California, people, I'm sorry, but the your gun ban is back on. Federal appeals court rules on California's assault weapons ban. Federal appeals court reinstated California's 34-year-old assault weapons ban after a federal judge ruled it unconstitutional. On October 19th, U.S. District Judge Roger Bennett blocked the ban, stating the law prohibited law-abiding citizens from being able to practice their Second Amendment rights to keep and bear arms. A three-judge panel in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals blocked Bennett's injunction in a 2-1 majority. So the panel ruled in favor of State Attorney Rob Bonita's appeal of the ban. Banata, whatever, a Democrat, praised the appeals court's decision and accused Bennett's decision of being dangerous and misguided. Likely in the wake of the recent Massachusetts shooting, the mass shooting in Maine, which left 18 dead. Weapons of war do not belong on our streets. Once again, for the brain dead, tone deaf people in California and the gun grabbers, AR platform is not a weapon of war. Never has been, never will be. There is not an army that has ever used an AR-15 as a military weapon. That's just a plain fact. It's never happened, never will happen unless we're down to sticks and stones and people, coming out of their streets. That, as the Japanese said, behind every blade of grass is an American with a firearm. California restricts the manufacture and distribution and transportation, importation, sale, or possession of firearms. The law considers being an assault weapon. The state defines these weapons to have particular tactical enhancements or configurations which make them more dangerous. Now, this is a direct contradiction to the latest Supreme Court ruling. So, in a recent ruling, Benezes argued the modern semi-automatic rifles, including the AR-15, are widely owned by law-abiding citizens across the nation, are virtually the same as other legal semi-automatics in the state. The case is about California laws that, in contrast to these constitutional principles, make it a crime to acquire and possess many modern, common semi-automatic firearms. Modern semi-automatic rifles, like the AR platform, are widely owned by law-abiding citizens across the nation, other than their looks, and the state calls them features or accessories. These prohibited rifles are virtually the same as other lawfully possessed rifles, which is true. A plastic stock versus a wooden stock. Okay, that's the difference on many of them. Now, the same judge made the same ruling ruled the ban unconstitutional in 2021, but the same appeals court vacated his decision and ordered him to review the matter. The judge also ruled the state's ban on high capacity ammunition, let's call them standard capacity, not high capacity, ammunition magazines are unconstitutional, but the ban remained in place after the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in favor of it. This is going to end up before the Supreme Court again. So California, I'm sorry. And once again, California, they act like they're their own country so many times. And once again, I'm going to bring up the fact that they have got guards, police stationed on the highways leading into their state that do vehicle searches. And if you refuse to allow them to search your vehicle, you can be arrested and charged. And if that is legal, and obviously it is, it's been going on for as long as I can remember. And from if I remember correctly, it's been going on since the Dust Bowl era. Then, what Texas is doing is perfectly legal. But California acts like they're their own country so many times. All right. Here, one last another article here I wanted to bring up, and this is dealing. The Chevron decision. That's a decision the courts made. About 20 some years ago, 1984. So over 30 some years ago, 50 years ago. All right. And let me go ahead and share this article because the Chevron decision needs to go. The Chevron, it's like other rulings that were made back then, it's been abused to the point that it now needs to go. At the time, it may have been a good decision, but the alphabet soups have managed to ruin it to the point that the decision itself has to go. Not the way the Constitution works. Medical and science advocacy groups want SCOTUS to protect regulatory state power. And it's not what you actually think. Medical, environmental, and scientific advocacy groups are urging the Supreme Court to protect the power of regulatory agencies, arguing that agency experts do a better job interpreting Congress's policy goals than the courts. Let's use the ATF as an example. This is something many of us are familiar with, because the ATF is one of the main reasons why we need to see the Chevron decision to go down in flames. Congress writes a law. The House and the Senate agree to it. The president agrees to it, and it now becomes the law. And then you get these numbnuts sitting over there in the regulatory agencies, the alphabet soups, and they turn around and twist that law to mean what they want it to mean at that time, to push their personal agenda. To use as a prime example, for 20 some years, the pistol grip extension has been a legal device used by many people, and I've considered getting one for myself, to help them, to aid them in firing a pistol. Especially people, I've got nerve damage. I no longer can shoot anything stronger than a 9mm. All right. Otherwise, I have a tendency to, I have a tendency to top cap my rounds. Well, having that arm brace, the forearm brace, makes it a little bit easier for me to shoot a firearm that's a little bit stronger than 9mm. Shoot a 45 or a 40, 357. Okay. Well, now all of a sudden, boom, they want to make that, the ATF is doing their damnedest to make that illegal. It's been legal for 20 some odd years without going through Congress, without having it made illegal through an act of Congress and signed by the president. They're just doing it in and by themselves. We don't like this anymore. And because we don't like it, we're going to make it illegal. The ATF just sits there and, makes up their own rules. And they sit there and, put it out there for public commentary. But public commentary doesn't affect it one way or another, because they're going to do what they're going to do. It's not part of the law. There was no law passed against people having it. And I'm one of these people that until I don't need a law to tell me I'm allowed to do something. I only need laws to tell me what I'm not allowed to do. If there's not a law against it, then it's legal. Yeah, Tyler, I like that. Ban the brains. If you ain't a clever mind. Okay, what's that? You can have all the weapons you want, but clever tactics can render your weapons useless. That's true. But these regulatory agencies, at one time or another, when they started off, they were okay. It's like everything. Started off with good intentions. And when Congress actually did their job and supervised them, and these organizations had to follow the rule of law, what was expressly written down, everything was good to go. And then they got in bureaucrats and more people that their agendas was more important. They found they 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 looked for loopholes in the law to push their personal agendas. And once again, I will refer you to the videos put out by the left on Twitter and TikTok and YouTube back during the Trump administration of these low level bureaucrats, mid level bureaucrats, youngins bragging about how they were still doing what they wanted to do regardless of what they were told. Because they didn't care that Trump was president. They were still going to do what they wanted to do, how they were going to do it. Well, that tells you right then and there, these organizations are now too big where individuals can put out those kind of statements, brag about it without fear of repercussion. And that's one of the things Trump wants to when he comes back into office, if he gets back into office, and it's something that the government needs to have is the ability to fire these people. I've said this before, I'll say it again. No public employee, nobody who draws a paycheck from the public till should be able to join a union, and their job is at will. There is no job protection. All right. They're if they're a cop, and I've got some things to say about cops here. I'm not going to go into that right this very second because this is a full blown rant about cops right now. But there's things that these people get into these offices, DMV, and how dare you come in here and act like you uh, are anything but here to be subservient to me, the state employee. I'm the person that's in charge inside this building. You come to me hat in hand and beg me to give you what you want or what you need. I determine what is there. I don't work for you. You're in here at my whim. I've seen that too. When Just as an example here, my wife went down to renew her concealed weapons permit. And that's the one thing I wish Florida get rid of: concealed weapons permits. Uh, I wish the country would get rid of them, but the only reason why the wife and I both keep them is because in order to carry in so many states, you have to have one. And Florida's got very large number of states that the license is recognized in. But she went in, she made the appointment, showed up early for her appointment, went in to renew her permit. And the woman that she had her appointment with said, "Oh, I can't see you right now. I've got to leave early today." Wait a minute, I've got an appointment to get this done. Well, yeah, I know you made the appointment, and yeah, I know it's been 3 weeks. It took her 3 weeks to get the appointment. And the next appointment was going to be like 2 months down the road. Meanwhile, her permit would expire. But that woman wanted to leave the office right then and there. Now, in the state of Florida, to renew a permit takes about 15 minutes. You go in, pay your money, show your driver's license and such. They've already looked your name up in the computer, make certain you don't have any recent arrest or anything. They take your picture, print out the new permit, hand it to you. You sign it, and it's over and done with. They laminate it and hand it to you. Start to finish takes 15 minutes. But I'm very proud of my wife. She absolutely refused to let that woman leave until she got her new permit. Yeah, Florida's the same way now, retro, but being as we do travel to Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, uh, West Virginia, Virginia, and then sometimes Pennsylvania, all these states allow us, they recognize our concealed weapons permit. You're, I don't go to New York for any reason there, Wiley. And by the way, good morning. I don't go to New York for any reason. So, when I uh, drive to Ohio to visit relatives, I'm passing through these states, and yes, I am carrying my firearm. So that just only makes it a lot easier that they do recognize our permits. And that's the only reason why we even have a permit, either one of us. Because even Ohio recognizes the Florida permit. And I will have to say, the one time I had interaction with Ohio cops out of, I want to say it was Canton, when it come to that, they pulled up on me. I pulled over, yada, yada, yada. I had my hands on the steering wheel. And not being sure about Ohio law, I'm pretty certain Ohio law at the time was if you are carrying a firearm, you must notify the police of that at first possible moment. And that's the first thing I did was, afternoon officer, I am carrying a firearm. It is located on my right hip at the 3 o'clock position. And the officer looked at me, and I had my mother with me, had my wife with me, had my sister with me. And he asked who else was carrying, and my mother raised her hand, my wife raised her hand. My sister was the only one who didn't. And he said, okay, everybody, as long as y'all keep your hands in plain view, I'll keep mine in plain view, and we'll all be happy people. And he'd done his business. No, I did not get a ticket. And he said, okay, I understand. Everything went through by. He told me to have a good day. I wished him and his partner to have a good day. Later on, I contacted the chief of police for his group and sang their praises and told them how much I appreciated their professionalism and the inability they had of flying off the handle and going absolutely ape nuts on me. So, there are good cops out there. Unfortunately, the good cops don't make the news as the bad cops do. All right, but anyway, back to this article. These groups warned in a friend of the brief course the Supreme Court could limit the agency's ability to use expertise to make regulatory decisions if it overturns the 1984 ruling establishing the Chevron defense. The legal doctrine says courts should defer to agency interpretations of statutes when the language is ambiguous. In two cases to be heard in January, but opponents say the agencies are not experts in every question they've ventured to answer, especially on legal issues. Once again, I'm going back to what I said at the beginning of this whole mess. All right. Thanks to groups like the ATF and to the EPA, who take and twist the laws as they are written to mean what they want them to mean and not what Congress wrote. The Chevron defense should no longer be, the Chevron policy should no longer be the law of the land. If they feel that the law as passed by Congress and signed by the president is too ambiguous, then they need to go back to Congress to get it cleared up. And that's partially Congress's fault. Congress should be writing these bills in a way that puts straitjackets on these regulatory agencies. This is what the law says. This is what it means. No more, no less. But as we've also learned, the president determines what laws are going to be enforced and not enforced. Our immigration laws are not being enforced. We already know that. DHS is not enforcing our immigration laws as they are written. Regardless of what Mayorkas and the other idiots up there say. They're not doing them because they are allowing. Okay. Anyway. There are going to be areas which are going to be statutory requirements where agencies' expertise will be brought to bear, but overall, most cases, that's not the case. In most instances, you're talking about legal questions, and that's squarely within the competence of the courts. Yet interest groups assert agency expertise and warn of disruptive results that come from overturning the Chevron defense. A coalition of public health groups, including the American Cancer Society, Heart Association, and American Public Health, argued that reversing Chevron would threaten to disrupt access to care in every geographical area, at every income level, with every kind of medical and public health needs served by Medicare and Medicaid. Prove it. Prove it. prove that the laws that Congress wrote are too ambiguous to be enforced through the courts. That they said something that they meant something that they didn't write. Coalition of Scientific Membership Societies similarly wrote that rapidly developing fields like public health and environment should not always have to wait for a legislative process to catch up with the scientific understanding in order to address public good or need. You mean sort of like spending 2 years in lockdown? 2 years of wearing masks? 2 years of not being able to go to church? 2 years of everything else, all because of COVID? Wearing masks that didn't work? Ruining people's mental health? The only good thing that came out of those 2 years, a couple good things come out of that 2 years. One, a massive distrust of government. And two, parents finding out exactly what kind of garbage that the teachers were pushing down the throats of their children. Those are the only two things I can think of that come out of that out of COVID-19. A lot of people learned that our government is not what we thought it was or what they thought it was. And a lot of people learned that these teachers do not are pushing their own private agendas, morals down the throats of our children and grandchildren. And a lot, if it wasn't for that, where parents actually saw what was going on. The degree of judicial humility that respects the reasonable application of trustworthy scientific expertise is in fact an exercise of judicial authority. You know, like the expertise that Hunter Biden's briefcase was Russian disinformation. There's a lot of expertise. 42 experts signed off on that. These agencies are filled with non-elected experts. They're not elected. They're not responsible to the American citizens. And you can't fire them. Their contracts aren't up for public review every 2 years, every 4 years, or every 6 years. They're sitting there making $80, $100, $200, $300, $400,000 a year. And there's nothing the American population, the American populace can do about them. And do we really want to give them this kind of authority that, while we as an expert have determined this is the best thing for the American people? We've learned what happens when we give experts that kind of authority. We learned that over the last 2.5 years. Courts had the tools before the 1984 Chevron ruling to discern what sort of respect is due the agency's interpretation. Now he said the agency always wins if the statute is ambiguous. If the statute is ambiguous, then the statute needs to come down. The statute needs to disappear. Again, that is our Congress and our president not doing their job. The laws they pass need to be anything but ambiguous. Tw 2.2 million people are employed by the executive branch agencies, according to 2022 data. 2.2 million people make the decision for the entire country because they're the experts. Yeatman notes decisions agencies are given deference far beyond the scope of their expertise, citing a case at hand where the National Marine Fisheries Service required family-owned fishing companies to pay the salaries of state-mandated observers aboard their ships. In lower courts, deference to the agencies to become a reflective norm. When the underlying issue is we don't have the money to pay for something we want, you pay for it. That's not expertise. What expertise does is what expertise does the agency bring when it comes to empowering itself? The fisheries program required businesses to shell out $710 per day to support observers, amounting to nearly 20% of the plaintiff's annual revenue. Wow. One of the briefs noted that the agencies do not have a monopoly on expertise. The agency's interpretation of statutes may actually be more influenced by a president's zealous use of the pen and the phone. Yeah, remember Obama. I've got a pen and a phone. I can make anything happen. As this group, as the Liberty Justice Center's brief, Chevron allows executive agencies to usurp the court's role and interpret laws consistent with their own policy preferences. And that's exactly what I was saying before. You get a bunch of anti-gunners in the ATF and a bunch of gun grabbers in there, and soon all the laws don't mean what the laws meant anymore. And the ATF is making things illegal, which have been legal for a couple of decades. So we'll be, I'll be watching this case, and hopefully the Chevron defense is going to get thrown out. That is to be decided this year, I believe. And I'm looking forward, I'm hoping that this Supreme Court throws it out. Okay. Now, earlier I said something about cops and having something about them. Nate the lawyer, he's one of the Law Tube guys, and he put out a video last night, early this morning. Long story short, and for me, I know that's unusual saying long, trying to keep something short. Get back to here. Okay. A young man was pulled over for driving with his high beams on. The reason he's driving with his high beams on is one of his headlights was out. Well, the cops, okay, automatically, oh, we smell alcohol. We need you to do a we need you to do the dancing monkey routine. Well, he passed the dancing monkey routine. So then they did the breath test. He passed the breath test. Well, okay, well, now we smell marijuana. So they arrest him because they smell marijuana and they've determined that he is driving while under the influence just because they couldn't find anything. He passed the dancing monkey routine. So they get him back to the police station and they have him do the breath test there, and he blew all zeros. And they're expert on detecting if somebody's under the effects of illegal drugs. Sorry, this young man is not under the use of illegal drugs. He's not under the effect of anything. So he filed a lawsuit against him. And he's made a couple of videos on it. He's used the body cam footage and calling the individual cops out by name, the ones who were bound and determined to arrest him and have him charged with something, with anything. And the thing was, is he was pretty damn polite the whole time. Even when asking and for an apology from the arresting officer, he was a hell of a lot more polite than I would be. Well, those cops have decided that they're going to sue him for defamation of character. While another series of cops, a gentleman by the name of Afro Man, a bunch of cops decided that they were going to raid his house because a CI informed them that he had pounds of marijuana and other illegal drugs and a secret basement where he had sex slaves. So they went in like a SWAT team, man. They military uniforms, body armor, firearms, dress on. I mean, they were all there. They kicked his door down. They tore his place up. And one of them evidently doing all that it made him kind of hungry. And he ate some lemon cake that he had sitting in his kitchen. What they didn't know was Mr. Afro Man and this has all happened in Ohio, my home state. He had security cameras up throughout his house, and he got them all on video. Well, Afro Man, being the rapper that he is, wrote a couple of songs. And he used the video from his own security cameras because, he wanted cops he's writing this song about the cops that raided his house. And he used the video that he had. Well, the cops decided that they were going to also sue him for defamation of character and libel. Well, the judge threw out a bunch of the cases, but he's still allowing a couple of them to go through. Let's see here. He gave 2 songs. Well, let's see. Afro Man's best known for his 2000 hit "Because I Got High," and he released the 2 videos he wrote that had the mocking the deputies called "Lemon Pound Cake" and "Will You Help Me Repair My Door." He also sold merchandise with images of the deputies and used the footage to promote his products and tours. Well, this is all stuff filmed inside his house. That's his video. If the cops hadn't been in his house, they wouldn't have been on his videos. If the cop hadn't ate his lemon pound cake, that cop wouldn't have been a focus of a song and a video. The mockery offended the deputies so much that 7 of them filed the lawsuits against Afro-Man back in March. The deputies have argued that Afro-Man used their personas for commercial purposes without permission, causing them to suffer embarrassment, ridicule, emotional distress, humiliation, and loss of reputation. Well, when you believe a CI who tells you that a man's got a secret dungeon in his basement keeping sex slaves, and that he's got pounds of marijuana, and you just use that CI's word for it, you deserve to be ridiculed. Just as when you pull a guy over legitimately for driving with his high beams on and turn that into arrest, saying that he's under the influence of either drugs or alcohol, and the physical test kicked back none. He's not under the influence of either one. You deserve all the ridicule and public humiliation you can get. This is yet again another case where you do not want me, these cops do not want me to be on the jury. I want to be on these juries. I wish I was still an Ohio resident to be on the Afro-Man's jury. Because the cops would lose and Afro-Man would win. Now, I did manage to look up, there's an actual court case. Where did it go? Here we go. Police defamation suits against citizens. And evidently, this is on the rise. And the reason why it's on the rise, where the police are bringing defamation suits, is because people are recording the cops and making YouTube videos. And the cops don't like it. Sheriffs don't like it. Not just that, but your tax collector, your city manager, your office manager in City Hall. All these people are subject to be recorded by the citizens. Okay. And in the New York Times v. Sullivan, the U.S. Supreme Court resolved the conflict among libel laws in the United States regarding actions brought by criticized public officials against private citizens. The court held that public officials are prohibited from recovering damages for defamatory falsehoods relating to official conduct unless they can prove the statement was made with actual malice, i.e., with knowledge that the statement was false, or with reckless disregard for whether or not it was true or false. Continued application of this standard already has had an adverse impact on the rate of success of public defamation suits. A lot of these people, and especially police, yeah, Tyre, Afro-Man had, here, I will post the link to the Afro-Man story. This is from Reason Magazine. Okay. And the other story was Nate the lawyer. This either last night or this morning. This is one of his most recent videos. And I remember watching the original video and either Lackluster or Audit the Auditor. I think it's Lackluster did a story on it a few months back. Okay. But a lot of these organizations, a lot of these um, office workers, government employees that, you know, you can't I don't give you permission to record me sitting in my office. Too bad. As long as I'm in an area I'm allowed to be in, I can record you. The Supreme Court's already ruled that. Just like they ruled I can record the police. I don't need your permission because you're a government employee doing a government job on government time. So these videos get made, they get put out on the internet, and the people don't like it. So what do? They turn around and they file lawsuits against the people making the videos. Well, because of the Times v. Sullivan ruling, unless you are intentionally lying about what was going on, you they don't have a case. It's the same thing, public figure. All the lies that the media said against Trump. Let's use that as an example. Well, being as Trump was president, he can't sue them over the lies. They can tell all the lies they want about him, and he can't sue them because he's a public official. You can't get him for libel. You can't get him for slander. Well, these other government employees, they're the same way. They're treated the exact same way, and they are starting to come to realize that. And the police are starting to come to realize that. Another tactic some of them have tried using and is failing miserable. I just saw it used again here not too long ago. Is when you start recording the police, they start playing copyright music real loud because they know if you use copyright music on YouTube or something, that you'll get a copyright strike and your video will get taken down. Well, now there's being pushed back against that tactic. So I'm not and some of y'all may be wondering why I'm not saying a whole lot about the big major stories going on right now, especially Israel and Palestine. And the reason for that is simple. All right. Everybody and their brothers already get saying everything there is to be said about it. I've made it clear I fully support Israel and what they're doing. As with any government agency, any government, all right, not everything they've done I've liked. Not everything they've done I felt was the right thing to do. But nothing they've done deserves what Hamas did to them back on October 7th. And anybody who is supporting Hamas, anybody out there chanting, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Anybody out there waving the Hamas flag or the Palestinian flag, you're supporting the terrorist group. And again, my honest opinion, I stated this last week. If you're in the United States on any kind of a visa, or if you are a naturalized citizen and you're out there supporting a terrorist group, you need to be deported and your naturalized citizenship revoked. Yes, you can have your naturalized citizenship revoked. And anybody out there supporting these groups, supporting Hamas, I don't care who they are. I don't care what job they hold. I don't care how much money they've got. I don't care what grade of school they're in, how close they are to graduating. I don't care how many businesses they own. They should be deported. They should not be welcome in our country whatsoever. We should not be allowing people to support terrorist groups like Hamas in this country. I'm glad to see that some businesses refused to hire, withdrew uh, their bids to hire people, withdrew their offers to hire people. I'm glad to see that happening. But again, that's me. Okay. And there's nothing I'm going to say that's going to change anybody's minds. So, and these stories are so well out there, so far out there, that nothing I'm going to say is going to inform you anymore on what is going on than what anybody else, because it's too easy to get that information. Um, the defamation case against Afro Man. That's a fairly new thing. In fact, honestly, until I read this article this weekend, I didn't know it was going on. I didn't know until I saw Nate's YouTube video that that young man was being sued either, because he's got lawsuits against the police department ongoing. So, but anyhow, ladies and gents, uh, that's it for the day. I've got another hour or so of infusion, and then I've got business I got to take care of. I want to thank everybody for coming out, listening to me rant for this morning. I do appreciate it. And I want everybody to have a good day. Enjoy yourselves. Now, as always, be with the ones you love and love the ones that you're with. Later.